Aside here, Gareth, we can also touch on something that you mentioned earlier. In fact, just before all of this happened, you spoke about the damage of infrastructure. Just in the quick view that I'm having around, you can see like now there is.
All right, Des, I'm going to stop you there again for a moment, just while you are taking a moment to catch your breath and explain to me about the situation you're currently involved in. The microphone again, Des, and just a little bit loose. Perhaps take a moment and see if you can't just give that another wiggle on the microphone cable. For our viewers at home, I apologize for the breakup in audio slightly. We've had running battles between students and police. You can imagine Des and Tathia and my colleague Neil, the camera person, running up and down the road. Something's obviously just come a little bit loose, but Dason and our team will fix that and get that audio right. Police are now inside the campus, just inside the main gates of Mangosuthu University of Technology. For the last 2 hours or so, they've been held outside. Dason, I can hear you again. Let me come back to you.
Gareth, take a look at what you're seeing. You'll be seeing some members of staff that are gathered inside the building. They are there in what is the MUT's admin offices, I believe, and they've been taking cover there. Police officers have now spread out. I see students scattered around the campus, but this is not what police want, despite the fact that they are a lot calmer now. They want everyone off the campus, and that's so that they can restore some calm here, because
all right, Dason, I'm afraid we've lost you. It almost seems completely there. It looks like one or two members coming out of the administrative buildings now engaging with members who were inside. We do not know at this point if these people wearing the red shirts or who were inside the campus were part of those running battles. It seems they are speaking to police, explaining it's not them. The police now trying to get more info. Dason, let me try once again, come back to you, see if the audio is a bit better.
Gareth, I hope I do have you now. Once again, I must apologize. Things have been very chaotic on this side, and unfortunately one of the casualties was the microphone cable, I think, as well as our tripod that has been stolen. But you are correct in what you're saying. The group that we did see is now engaging with police. They are explaining their presence here, and also trying to explain that they were not, in fact, the ones that were behind those attacks that we saw. But what I can say to you now is that while we are in the university, there are a few things happening. The one is that staff, I had spoken about staff earlier, and I was wondering if they were on the campus. I've established that they are, and they have been, but they are hiding out at the admin block, and they've been taking refuge there while all of this has been going on. Police are now on the premises. Some of them have spread out and have gone out to look for the students that were involved in the attacks, and others are here now at the entrance engaging with these gentlemen that you see here, who are also just explaining what had happened. I just want to listen in a bit closer. Sorry. Excuse me, sir. Can I have a chat with you? I'm just trying to talk to one of these gentlemen, Gareth. Okay, one of them has just said to me that he's not allowed to speak to the media. I'm just trying to establish here on the ground, Gareth, exactly who this group is. But unfortunately, you know that during incidents like this, many people don't want to publicly speak, or they don't want to talk to the media, especially on matters like this. There's normally elected leadership, and they would generally point us in the direction of that. That applies to both university management as well as those that are involved in this protest as well.
I imagine at the moment, Deson, as you try and listen in on the various conversations and the shouting and screaming that's going on, the police at the moment trying to establish who's actually in charge at the moment on the campus, because up until now, Deson, you're telling me earlier, we've heard nothing from MUT management, we've heard nothing from the SRC, not that I can find online, and that's our camera person Neil now zooming in, Deson, to that it looks like something of a hallway, something of an archway straight down the pathway of your position right now. Not clear at this point whether those students were involved, but they're certainly taking a very keen interest in what's happening with the police. But it's difficult to establish who's actually in charge and more importantly for your job, who to even try and speak to at this point.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's normally one of the more difficult things to do during these types of protests. You would also know that we've been on the wrong side of these flying rocks many times over the years, especially when when covering these protests and talking to some of these students. Now, that group you're talking about is waiting probably about 20 meters away from where the police are now. They're just observing. And I see that they are starting to regroup. As to whether those students that you're seeing now is the exact group that was here at the gate a short while ago, that's not clear right now. But as you mentioned, they are certainly gathering. Police are now remaining on the university property. They are still deciding what to do next. Interesting point about that area that you're talking about now, Gareth. Just about 2 years ago, I actually remember that those battles that you saw on the road took place right here and started at that point and went all the way into the university. So there were police chasing students who were then throwing rocks from different points, and it was a lot more difficult back then because of the way the university is laid out. So one hopes that the attack and the battles that we saw out on the road earlier don't actually continue on this university property, because that is where those that are throwing those rocks will certainly have an advantage.
We've also just seen when your camera person Neil zoomed in about whether or not this might be the same group that we saw outside. I can see the one individual as Neil zooms in now, right in the center, Deson, wearing the black scarf and red shirt. It looks like he's holding a rock or a bottle in his hand as well. This group, it seems, are trying to taunt the police, certainly throwing various comments and some colourful language your way and towards the police. It seems that the police are going to have to try and handle this situation now.
That's right. And let's just take a step back and I'll show you what it looks like. So here's the police line. And just behind that, that's where you see that group of students. And this, I think, answers a question that you asked me earlier on, Gareth, about how big the group was. And I think if you look at that picture now, you would also agree that the group that is gathered there, and as you mentioned, which also has some of the people that were standing here at the gate, is not a very large one.
And once again, a scene that we have seen over too many years now here on eNCA and around the country. It is this line of police with their helmets and protective gear, and just a couple of meters, maybe 20, 30 meters in front of them, maybe a bit more, we have students who are protesting what they claim is their legitimate right to have historical debt erased. A couple of years ago, 2015, 2016, the Fees Must Fall movement, there was a call for free education, and we've heard, Deson Tathia, from the Higher Education Minister, the Minister of Higher Education, I beg your pardon, Blaine Nzimande, this year, a report I'm looking at, just to give viewers some context as to what the problem is, the 15th of March this year. And I would like to quote, saying that Blaine Nzimande responding to union and student demands, saying that departments are not in a position to scrap historical student debt. And that does seem to be one of the biggest issues. The students want it completely gone, Deson, and the higher education minister saying it's simply not possible. It's difficult to understand where a middle ground can be found here. And in the lack of that, this is where we find visuals like this yet again.
And it's where we found ourselves for many years now, Gareth. And as I said to you earlier, it is certainly not a situation that can continue. Just because of, I see they've all scattered now, just because the police officers that are standing here to my right have just raised their weapons. But Gareth, certainly what normally would happen next is that there should be an engagement between the SRC as well as university management. Sometimes they tend to take a prolonged period. There's not often agreements that are reached at the end of these, and I'm talking about the past few years now. And generally, you'll find that it has to be some kind of compromise, a very short-term solution, a band-aid, if you will, because you find that this is exactly what happened last year and the year before, but yet we still find ourselves here. And until the root of this problem is addressed and addressed conclusively, unfortunately, these are the pictures that we will be seeing going forward.
Some 11,500 students are currently part of Mangosuthu University of Technology. Just to give you a geographical sense of where we are in the country, this is live from MUT. You can see the logo there. This is in Umlazi, in KZN. To give you a geographical sense, there is a main road just behind the current position where they are now. You can see the police there. Just some 20 minutes ago, so Dason, you guys and the police were still stuck outside. That's a main road. Just to the left and right of you, I'd seen some shops in the distance. I'd seen some vehicles parked on the road and also what looked like a parking area. And obviously, this is what the police were trying to avoid, letting these students down the road, which what it seemed like was the intention of those students, is to try and push the police as far down the road as possible. And knowing what we have seen, the kind of damage caused by the protesting students, one can only imagine what that would have looked like if they had decided to try and make their way further down the road where you are now.
So simply put, what they're doing now is exactly that. They've moved in and they now are standing guard. I'm talking about the police. They're standing guard here at the entrance of the university because it seems that the approach that they've taken is to rather contain the unruly elements in this protest within the university property while within sight, and they are ready to react if necessary. The students, however, have been trying ever so slightly to edge towards police, but then they keep retreating. So there's now a space that is between them, with students on the one side, as you've seen, and the police, because while this will now have to be resolved within the premises of the university, there's also a huge cleanup operation that needs to happen on the road to ensure that traffic starts flowing. This is not something that can continue as this, as I mentioned earlier, is a very busy road. So there will be people that will be traveling through. There are taxis that travel down here. There are homes. There are people that need to get to and from work and to wherever else they are going. You spoke about damage earlier, about the infrastructure of universities, but another consideration, especially when protests like this spill outside onto the road, is what you're seeing now, is the damage to the roads out here, to municipal property. And this happens at many of the universities when the students end up leaving the university precinct and taking their protests out onto the road. This, you can already see, has now caused damage to this intersection. And it wouldn't be the first time that that's happened, because in the past, this road has also been repaired as a result of damage that was caused from both the wear and tear as well as protests like this one.
I'm just taking a look at some of the reaction on social media, Dason, and as I always say, social media is not the be-all and end-all when looking at the temperature of South Africa, but we are seeing some students tweeting about this, obviously watching your incredible live coverage. And it's not the students who are protesting, Dason, it's the students who are saying this is affecting their academic year again. Last year, COVID-19, classes shut down, exams missed, years lost, and now once again, we're seeing these sort of protests, albeit trying to make a point, it is going to affect thousands of other students who do want to get on with learning.
And they are always the casualties of this kind of action, isn't it? I mean, just look at this picture. It's actually a very sad picture. If Neil just turns around with me, and this